Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fear and Greed Fast 5. I'm Michael Thompson and hello Sean Aylmer.
Hello Michael.
Sean, on weekdays it's all about the Fast 5, which is the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, our favourite story, the sleeper story, which is the one that tends to fly under the radar a little bit, and the most remarkable story. So let's get into it. Sean, for you, what was the biggest story of the week?
I think we're going to agree on this. Interest rates in the economy. The Reserve Bank Board met this week. The Governor, Philip Lowe, spoke. Also, there are updated forecasts from the central bank. And what we found out is that the economy is expected to grow at a 4% pace this year, hurt just a touch by Omicron. We found out that inflation is higher than the central bank forecast, though we're still waiting to see cost pressures flow through. We also found out that unemployment is likely to fall below 4% for the first time in about 5 decades. Upshot of all that, interest rate hikes are coming sooner, not later. Certainly not in 2024 when the bank was talking about it last year. Smart money is on late this year or early next year.
Yeah, look, I think I have to agree with you that is the biggest story of the week. Everyone's talking about interest rates at the moment, and considering it affects so many people, from those with a mortgage through to anyone relying on savings in the bank, including a lot of retirees, I do think it is the biggest story of the week. The most remarkable story. Can I go first on this one?
Sure.
For me, the most remarkable story of the week was the fact that suddenly the ASX had a new largest company, and it was the largest by a considerable margin. So mining giant BHP ended its dual listing on the London Stock Exchange in favour of being listed solely here in Australia. The end result is that this week, the market capitalisation of BHP locally suddenly reflected the full value of the company rather than being split with London. Now, that market cap is a casual $240 billion, much, much bigger than the number 2 company on the bourse, which is Commonwealth Bank, and then CSL behind that. In fact, the gap is so big between numbers 1 and 2 that you could actually fit a whole nother bank in there, like ANZ or NAB. So BHP's always been known as the big Australian, and I like the fact that now we can say that without having to share it with anyone else.
I'll take that as a remarkable story. Honourable mention, though, to the fall of Meta Platforms, a parent company of Facebook. Did you know it came out with its quarterly earnings results this week? User numbers have stalled. TikTok and YouTube are attacking it. Interest rates are rising. That's not good for growth stocks like Meta. And, of course, Mark Zuckerberg, the boss of Meta, has changed strategy, pushing it into the virtual reality world or metaverse products. That's a bit untested. Investors have fallen out of love with Facebook in one session. The value of the company dropped by $230 billion, easily the biggest fall in dollar terms ever on Wall Street. Pretty remarkable.
That is a remarkable story, and will probably be a pub trivia question in years to come as well. Sleeper story, Sean. What was your sleeper story for this week?
Well, it's actually about the future fund and where it's going to invest. It's made a lot of money. It's averaging 11% return over the past decade, but all the easy returns from share markets have finished. That's because interest rates are rising. So just putting your money following the market isn't going to work anymore. That's what the Future Fund thinks, and it's done a really good job so far, so they're worth listening to. Instead, invest in specialist managers such as private equity, infrastructure, property, hedge funds. That's where the Future Fund is going to put its money. Well worth listening to.
That's a good one. My sleeper story this week's all about electric vehicles, though, because I reckon if you went out and asked your friends or your neighbours why they didn't want to get an EV just yet, most of them would say it's probably because of the range. This idea that EVs are great for driving around in the city, but we live in a spread out country and people are going to want to drive from Melbourne to Sydney or to Brisbane or Perth or somewhere. But a report out this week claims that within 2 years, a new electric vehicle will be able to travel as far as cars with normal combustion engines before needing to recharge. Only 21,000 electric vehicles were sold in Australia last year. That's 2% of sales. It's 11% in Europe. So it's a bit of a sleeper because we're not there yet, but we may well be heading in the right direction.
Fair enough. Good story.
All right, let's finish with our favourite stories of the week. Let's start with you, Sean. What did you have?
Oh, Partygate in the United Kingdom involving the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. What a cracker. A Conservative Party report this week has been highly critical of Mr Johnson over 12 parties held at 10 Downing Street and the Whitehall estate during lockdowns, of course, in contravention of the Prime Minister's own rules. There's now talk of challenging Mr Johnson over Partygate. Initially, Mr Johnson said the parties didn't take place. That came unstuck when 70 witnesses disagreed, supported by about 300 photos. He now says he wasn't involved in any of them, though it's pretty clear that he was. In fact, he was at 4 of them, including his own birthday party. What a fabulous story.
The photos could have just been of someone wearing a Boris Johnson wig. He does have very distinctive hair, you know.
True.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, hard to impersonate.
Yes. I don't think anyone could quite get that eccentricity right. Look, Sean, the story that I've chosen this week as my favourite is about the remarkable salaries on offer for software developers and engineers. There is a massive shortage of skilled workers, and for those with the right skills, and I'm talking about the ability to write software, which is an ability, unfortunately, that I don't have, the market has gone more than a little bit crazy. Some salaries have increased by almost 50% in just the last 6 months. We're talking average salaries for certain software developers of around $210,000. It's made me painfully aware I don't have those skills. I do have kids though, and they will be enrolled into coding classes because they are my ticket to a comfortable retirement.
Yeah, well said.
All right, there we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business from this week. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and we look forward to your company then.